Well, it's all my hairdresser's fault. She had trigger fingers just from repetitive motion of doing cutting and blow drying hair for so many years. And she had gotten a steroid shot and the pain had disappeared for about 4 months. And then it started hurting her again. She was like, I think I'm going to go get another steroid shot. And I said, you can't do that. And she said, what do you mean? I said, well, you can't keep putting steroids in the same place. I said, why don't you come in the dental office and we'll try PRP in her hand and see if it does anything. And I don't know what made me think to say it. I just think it was a God thing. So she came in the office and we drew blood. We injected her hand and she says to me, how long do you think before I see anything? And I said, well, probably about 6 weeks. I don't know. So she sent me a picture the next morning, and before we put the plasma in, she could not touch her index finger to her thumb. The next day she sent me a picture and her index finger was touching her thumb.
Hey there, I'm Amy Connell. Welcome to Graced Health, the podcast for women who want simple and grace-filled ways to take care of themselves and enjoy a little chocolate. I'm a certified personal trainer who wants you to know your eating, movement, and body don't have to be perfect. You just need to be able to do what you're called to do. Anytime we have 5 Tuesdays in a month, I try to bring an extra bonus conversation that adds just a different element to our typical topics. Today's conversation with Dr. Teresa Cody illuminates all of the different ways we can use PRP, which is platelet-rich plasma, to help heal our bodies. We discuss the whole, what PRP is, the studies surrounding it, her own anecdotal evidence, and I do go into my personal experience with it. Dr. Teresa Cody graduated with her Doctor of Dental Surgery from the University of Texas Dental School in 1992. Through her years practicing dentistry, she learned about the powerful potential of platelet-rich plasma therapy to promote healing in bone graft surgery. She's now the owner of CNC Wellness Center in Sugar Land, Texas, and the astonishing improvements in her clients' health inspired her to write her book, You Healing You, which we'll talk some about. Now, one note before we jump in, I recognize this is a bit of a fringe conversation. PRP is not FDA approved for many of the procedures or the scenarios that we talk about today. I am enormously cautious about the content I bring here, about the discussions that we have, and I'm very protective about the science-based conversations I have here because I never want to lead anyone astray. I don't want to be a place of basically like, well, I heard it on the internet and it's totally we'll just call it junk. That way I don't have to use the little explicit button. But once you learn more about this and more about the process and what it actually is, I think you'll understand why I'm comfortable with this conversation. It truly is fascinating to me. And what I really love about it is our own body healing our own body, which I think is just such a gift from God and the ability to do that. So I think you'll really enjoy hearing about it. By the way, if you dig resources, be sure to check out the resources tab over at gracedhealth.com. I have all kinds of free downloads to support your physical and spiritual health. I have things like scriptures to pray over your health, a 14-day health and body image devotional, and recipes that are all or mostly like make ahead protein packed stuff. So go check everything out. They're all free over there. It's over at gracedhealth.com/resources. Let's bring on Dr. Cody. Dr. Cody, I'm super excited for this conversation. Welcome to the Graced Health Podcast.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. Glad to be here.
Well, okay. So you have an interesting story because you are a trained dentist who took a little bit of a pivot recently in the last several years. And I know you have a really huge passion about PRP. So I have all kinds of questions for you today, and I just want to jump right in and just get to the nitty gritty. So, what is PRP? Help us understand what that is.
Well, PRP stands for platelet-rich plasma. And platelet-rich plasma is found in the blood of everyone. And ironically, we have been using it in dentistry for 30 years. So we take a little blood, put it in a centrifuge. All the red blood cells are heavier, so they fall to the bottom of the tube. And on top is a yellow miraculous portion of the plasma. It is the plasma and the platelets. And we take that off and use that in bone grafting and dentistry. So it wasn't foreign to dentistry. I just didn't know what great things it was doing under there. But if you don't have bone, you don't get an implant. So we knew you absolutely need it. And so it's platelet-rich plasma.
Got it. It's funny as I think about that. Where my head goes with plasma is when I was in college at Oklahoma State, you could make some really good money by donating plasma. And so people would go there when they were short on funds and go donate plasma. And I don't even know if they have that anymore. I mean, that was 25 plus years ago. They do.
They do.
Okay.
Yeah. So, for example, if you had a head injury, they would use platelets and the plasma to stop the bleeding. And other people's platelets. I mean, that's
okay.
And some cancer patients get so low in plasma that they need it. That's why you were donating it. It's a big thing to donate though, because it's a long procedure.
It was, I never did it, believe it or not. I mean, I'm kind of surprised because it's not like I had just an abundance of funds, but yeah, I mean, that was it, like, what a brilliant marketing scheme, right? But I do remember like, it was an ordeal. Like, I think it was like a 4-hour process and I don't know how much they took, but,
a lot, I think.
Yeah. I think it was a little more difficult, like on the body, it seemed like, than like going and donating blood. I never did it. But yeah, it just seemed like it was like more of a thing. But of course you got paid for it. So, well,
yeah, you didn't get paid for blood, but you did get paid for platelets and plasma.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So tell me, you've been using this PRP in dentistry for so long, but how did you get so passionate about it beyond that? Because you have a real strong focus in helping people heal outside of bone grafting in dentistry.
Well, it's all my hairdresser's fault.
Okay. Tell me more.
She had trigger fingers, and just from repetitive motion of doing cutting and blow drying hair for so many years. And she had gotten a steroid shot, and the pain had disappeared for about 4 months. And then it started hurting her again. And she was like, I think I'm going to go get another steroid shot. And I said, you can't do that. And she said, what do you mean? I said, well, you can't keep putting steroids in the same place. I said, why don't you come in the dental office and we'll try PRP in her hand and see if it does anything.
Well, what made you like put that together? What made you?
Okay, that's the part I don't know. This is the God part.
Okay.
This is the serendipity, because I actually didn't do bone grafts in dentistry. My focus was braces. So
okay,
I knew about it for all those years, and I don't know what made me think to say it. I just think it was a God thing, and she, of course, said, "Okay." Why she believe? But we've been friends for 30 years. So she came in the office and we drew blood and we injected her hand. And she says to me, how long do you think before I see anything? And I said, well, probably about 6 weeks. I don't know. So she sent me a picture the next morning. And before we put the plasma in, she could not touch her index finger to her thumb. So she had a very open, she couldn't make a fist. The next day, she sent me a picture and her index finger was touching her thumb. And luckily, I took a picture before we did this because you just can't believe the difference. And then she says, "Oh, sorry, I forgot to send you a picture the next day." And so I injected her hand on Monday afternoon. She sent me a fist on Wednesday afternoon.
Wow.
And I went,
wow.
Okay, what is this? And that's when I started studying it and figuring out, what is this doing? And we've had to, so now that was 2018, and we've only injected her hand one more time just for maintenance. And she's still being a hairdresser. So it even lasted. Because even if she keeps repeating the motions.
Yeah, sure. I mean, if you keep doing the same thing that you've always done, you're going to have the same results.
Right.
Right. Without changing something. Right. Yeah. Okay. So you talk about how that really inspired you to get into the research and really dig into that. And one of the things I was really impressed with your book, You Healing You, is the research that went into that. And as someone who has, I think, 6 pages of, what's it called? Like research and quotes and all of that kind of stuff in my book. Like that is not an easy, like that doesn't just come up. Like you have to really do your work and really understand where to go to get the right information and reputable. So, I'm just wondering if you can share some of the research backed examples that has shown that PRP can help in various situations.
Yeah, I started on, well, that's my favorite thing to do is research. So it was not a chore. It's what I've done for years for different subjects. And so I started researching, and of course, I found numerous studies on different things. Like I found a professor, and he did a whole lot of studies on Bell's palsy and PRP. And I'm thinking, my gosh, nobody treats Bell's palsy, right? It just comes and then it goes. It's paralysis of the face.
Right. I was going to say, explain that just a little bit for the people who aren't familiar with it.
Your motor neuron shuts down. And there's lots of theories on why that happens, but nobody really knows. And some people get it for years and some people get it for months. So one of the first patients I treated for Bell's palsy was a patient who had done braces on her daughters. She had a weight in her eye to close her eye because the eye doesn't close all the way. And she had Bell's palsy for 12 years. A lot of women giving birth get Bell's palsy right then.
Really?
She was so afraid of needles, and I numbed her up and everything. So she only came in for one treatment. But after that, she was able to take the weight out of her eye lid and she could close her eye normally. And so that's a lot of years, 12. And then the other patient who's in the book, he's a dental rep. He had Bell's palsy for 27 years. So his was, he just thought he'd try it. Now, his big symptoms were light sensitivity and crying when he ate. They call them crocodile tears.
Okay.
Not very nice. A week after treatment with PRP, he had no more light sensitivity. He could not walk outside without his sunglasses, and then he could. I don't know. And then he did 2 treatments, and the other treatment fixed the crying while eating. Just odd stuff like that. And then there's a lot of research on osteoarthritis and it's being very, very helpful. And I just found out, this is not in the book because I just discovered that there's an enzyme in the plasma that shuts down the enzyme that causes osteoarthritis. So that may be why it's very helpful. The other place that it's used a lot and has been studied a lot is tendons and ligament healing. And you know who actually does that the most? Professional athletes and horses.
And horses.
So my neighbor has horses, and she said, I told her what I was doing with PRP. She goes, oh, I know all about it. I said, what? She said, oh, yeah, for the last 15 years, if the horse gets hurt, that's the first thing they want to do.
Oh, wow. Okay. I want to back up some, though. So we're talking about these examples of how it's like, what is going on behind the scenes? Like you donate a vial of blood, it runs through the centrifuge, you skim off I'm sure I'm using all the wrong terms, by the way, skim off the plasma.
No, it's perfect.
You put the plasma in, and then what? Like what scientifically is happening when we put our own plasma back in our bodies, and how is it healing all of these various things?
At the moment, it's been studied. There are 15 what they call growth factors in the plasma. And I like to call them healing factors. And they have various jobs. And they are truly the directors of healing. So they tell the body what to do. For example, one of the growth factors, it attracts stem cells to the area. Another growth factor then tells the stem cells what to become. And there are other healing factors that stimulate blood vessels to be formed, and others that like say, okay, we need some collagen. So when you skin your knee, right? Let's say you fall and you skin your knee. The first thing the body does is concentrate the plasma there to form the clot, because that's what the platelets do, and then start the healing. I mean, when you look down in 10 days, you have skin. It all fixed itself, and that's what's doing it. It's the plasma. It's all the healing factors in the plasma.
Okay, so it has 15 different ways of directing the body to do what it needs to do to heal or to take care of itself.
Yeah, this is the way you heal.
Okay.
Period.
Yeah, right.
This is your healing system.
Sure. And and I think probably everybody has skinned their knee or gotten a scab or something like that, and you can kind of see it, right? Because it's kind of yellow. And sometimes it's bloody, and then there's also the yellow scabby stuff around it. But not to gross people out, but that's just how it is, right? Okay, so you've been doing this 3 years in practice? Is that about right?
3 years.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Do you have some? What I think I'm interested in kind of delving into is the variety of ways that this can be used. So I'm curious if you have any personal, like in my practice, besides your hairdresser, of like, oh my gosh, this person came in and we did it, and then this is the success story, if you want to call it that.
We have many success stories. Rotator cuff injuries where you can no longer raise your shoulder. I had one gentleman who actually drove from Corpus, and he had a ranch and he couldn't throw the hay anymore for his cows. And his friend had come in, who was a friend of a friend. And so he came up, and his shoulder was so bad. I told him, I don't know if it'll help. They didn't even want to do surgery because his shoulder was so bad.
Wow.
So, but his wife said, you might as well try it. So it's his blood, it's his plasma. We really feel very good about it's very safe. You can't really, there's really no side effects. the worst thing that would happen is he didn't get better. So he got 2 treatments, and it's a miracle. And his shoulder was, it's not a 16-year-old shoulder anymore, but he could raise his arm and he didn't have pain and he could throw the hay, which is what he needed to do. So we've done, and hips to, my nurse's sister-in-law has a degenerative condition that the family has in their hips. And she had gotten to the point where she couldn't ride her horse anymore at all. And the next step was probably surgery, but they didn't really want to do surgery because it's a degenerative condition. She felt like she was 98% better after one treatment.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Wow. That's
and
crazy.
She could ride her horse. Now, because it's degenerative, my nurse does it periodically, mm-hmm. and it just keeps it from getting worse. Right?
Yeah. Okay. So I want to play devil's advocate, because my guess is that people who like to think beyond what they're hearing are probably thinking, if the plasma is already in us, if the whole process is we extract the blood, centrifuge, take out the plasma, put it back in, if it's already in our body, then why do we need to go through that whole process? Like, why can't our body just use it? Because it's not like we're adding any more. We're just putting back what was already in there, but in a different concentrated form. So why can't our body already go ahead and use that?
Well, it can, and it does all the time. But there are areas of the body where the blood flow is not very concentrated, like the jawbone. There's no blood flow really to the jawbone except one big vessel. So it's not just bathed in blood.
Okay.
So what we're doing in tendons and ligaments are the same way. It's that white stringy stuff on chicken, right? It's kind of hard and mm-hmm. And they don't have a lot of blood flow. So if you have enough time, the tendon's going to heal. So what we're doing is we're redirecting normal healing and just concentrating it in an area where there's not a lot of blood flow. But it seems like it doesn't matter. I say that, but it also relaxes muscles, which have a lot of blood flow. Mm-hmm. And it takes away pain in many instances. So, you have it. And all we're doing is really concentrating it in an area that the body's trying to heal it. It's just, do you have enough time for it to get there?
Okay.
That's why they use it in horses, because horses have tremendously long ligaments and tendons.
Yeah.
And, I guess horses are more valuable than people.
Well, my guess is
if they get hurt, they go down.
My guess is there's less, I don't know what the right word is, but less rules surrounding what can be used on them versus humans. Like the FDA is, there are entities that require things like that we are careful about with humans.
This is not regulated by the FDA.
No, that's not.
This is not a food.
Yeah.
This is not a drug.
Okay. It's just your own plasma.
It's your blood. They probably would like to regulate it along with your spit and urine, but they can't seem to do it yet.
So who is PRP for? Like if someone's listening to this going, well, that's interesting. Maybe I should try that because I've had a rotator cuff injury that won't heal. I've had, a torn labrum in my shoulder. We all, and look, my community is a lot of women 40s and 50s. And so we've got issues, right? Like we have things on our body that are not working like they used to. So who is it for? And then who is it not for? Is there anyone like, what they say, they call it contraindications or people like you should just, maybe this is not the right step for you?
I have tried to figure out who it's not for, and I haven't found one person yet. It's you going back into you. So I think the worst that can happen is that you don't get better. Now, we have found that, it depends on the injury. I don't tell people if you have a rotator cuff that's completely torn off, you probably need surgery.
Mm-hmm.
This is not going to do it. But if you have tears in it, this is what it fixes. So yeah, I put it in both knees because I don't have anything wrong with my knees, except that I've been here for 60 years and I've been using them. So my left knee kind of bothered me a little bit, nothing like huge pain, but I put it in there, and about 3 weeks later, I realized, oh, my left knee doesn't hurt anymore, but my right knee hurts. So I had to put it in my right knee, and now neither one hurts. And I didn't have a diagnosis. I don't know what it was.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a simple procedure and so safe that I guess if you had a blood disorder, but I mean, maybe if you're a cancer patient and you don't have any plasma left, but because they do run out. That's what you're running out of. That's why where we started this conversation. That's why you pay for that.
Yeah.
So, and we do see, like, when people are sick, the plasma is cloudy because it has a lot of white blood cells in it.
Mm.
And when you're not sick, it's not cloudy.
Interesting.
It's a clear, nice liquid.
Okay. All right. That's interesting. Okay. So the whole reason I am familiar with PRP is I stumbled across it doing some investigative work from a total vanity perspective, because I mean, I think I even wrote about this in my book. Like, I have circles and bags and all of that kind of stuff. And so I was just kind of trying to explore things. And, we all have our own things, right? And I think every person needs to figure out what is right for them in terms of how they feel good about themselves and, skincare regimen and all that kind of stuff. So everybody is up the way they can do whatever they want. And so I came across this PRP. Now, I know in your head, Dr. Cody, you're like, it doesn't help the bags. It does, like, don't say that it helps the bags. But what I had seen was that it can just kind of brighten up your skin, brighten up your face, maybe to give it a little bit more collagen. For me, in my own strange little, like, comfort zone of what I'm comfortable with and what I'm not comfortable with, I was like, I'm comfortable with this. And so that's where I kind of came to you. And that's where I first met you, which, I mean, we've had some really fun conversations in there doing that. But so talk to us about, because again, women in 40s and 50s and everybody has their own thing. So yes, I do use one of the two ways of using PRP for your face. And I do kind of the more simplified version. So tell people how this can help their skin, their, and their face, and then the two different ways that you can use that.
That was possibly one of the first things I found after scouring PubMed. I found a vampire facelift and a vampire facial. And I was like, what is this? Well,
this sounds weird.
It is weird. And Dr. Runnels is a great guy. I went and took his course, and he just, every time he said that, he got more publicity. So he's just kept doing it. Mm-hmm. And it's using plasma in your face when you're not exactly injured, but it helps sun damage. You get smaller pores, because one of the reasons your pores get bigger is you're losing collagen under the skin, and it's not holding the pores together. So they're opening up, and then they get full of dirt. And but it also just improves the skin. You're right. It brightens, you glow. You don't realize how much glow you've lost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's very gradual.
You're kind of dull.
Yeah.
And I know this is audio, so you can't see, but our faces look pretty good. I look at it like it's maintenance, right? I don't look at it so much as vanity, but I change the oil on my truck. I do all the maintenance in life, and this is just maintenance for me on my face. So the two ways we do it is, well, since we're licensed, we inject it under the skin. We numb you up and inject it, and it's only 4 areas, and it goes everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to do a million shots, just 4. And then the other way is when their estheticians do it, they are not legally allowed to inject. They could be a phlebotomist, so they can take blood. So they do the same thing, but then they put it on topically and use a skin pen to make tiny little holes to push it in.
Okay.
So those are kind of the two ways it's used for aesthetics. I had one patient, she hated her neck, and I put it in her neck, and it was amazing. She was not fat at all. She was a very thin woman, but her neck was puffy, and all of a sudden I look and it's down. And so then it didn't have those wrinkles. So really, we've done the décolletage, we've done everything.
Okay, but I know that there's another kind of a more expanded version so there's the vampire facial, right, which is just purely the plasma, and then that is either put on with the skin pin or injected back in, depending on what the facility is licensed to be able to do. But then there's also the face lift, right? Am I getting these terms correctly?
Yes.
And so
yes.
say what the face lift.
The face lift includes filler.
Okay.
Like hyaluronic acid or radius, so it's kind of a play on words because, filler's really good for cheeks and filling in the marionette lines. So you're doing both at the same time.
Okay.
That's really the difference.
Yeah.
But the PRP is, the filler is wonderful because it gives you the collagen instantly and builds up your skin. But the PRP is what you can tell I'm a big fan. It's the bomb. It's what does all the hard lifting.
You're the PRP super fan or the plasma super fan. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Okay. So if someone was wanting to explore this, what would they recommend they do? So clearly, if anyone is in the Houston, Texas area, they can contact you and we'll have that information in the show notes. But I have people in New Zealand and I don't think they're going to want to get on a plane and come here for that. So if they're not in the immediate area, how would they go about finding someone, and particularly like how to find a reputable place? Because there's a lot of hack jobs out there, and I want my community to find people who are going to take care of them and who are, have all of the right background and licensing and all of that kind of stuff. Just like they know I want them to use a certified personal trainer. I want them to use the right person for any kind of PRP that they may want to do.
Well, right. But there are a lot of practitioners around the world that use this. One of the places that just occurred to me is Dr. Runnell's community, because we're a bunch of practitioners that kind of join together. If you look up vampire facelift or vampire facial,
mm-hmm.
You'll probably run into his site. I can't remember what the site is right now, but there's a whole list of practitioners on there.
Okay.
Who have been trained by him.
Okay. Yeah. And then they can look there, and then that's a good way to filter it out so that way those are practitioners who have been trained by him and can provide it with all of the right things. But it's funny, like it just feels really, really safe. I know that, but like you go, you draw the blood, you spin it right there and you put it right back in. Like it was like it just wasn't that long of a process of anything. And so it's not like, they're taking it back into the secret, behind the curtain room Doing whatever. I mean, like it's all right there and you can see it and you can see that it
No,
came out of you.
we like you to see. We
Yeah.
like you to see that it's right here. It's staying here. It's going back in you.
Right. Right. Yeah. There's no
Right.
man behind the curtain doing, I don't know, putting horse plasma in you or something. I don't know.
Yeah. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this was super helpful. And what I'm hoping is that, a lot of my community, I mean, we're just getting older and our bodies just don't quite work like it used to. And I just think that this is another tool or another resource that people might consider using if they are having some of these issues. And like I said, and I have to admit, like this, it just feels very vulnerable admitting that I'm doing this with my face. But at the same time, I'm like, I'm not doing anything crazy. And I don't know. I just have my own things. I've talked to you about my hangups. So, but it feels safe for me too. And so, but once I got to talking with you, I realized how healing this really is on such a broad scope. And so it might be a great place to try before you have surgery, unless your doctor's like, you have to have surgery. I mean, obviously listen to your doctor, all of those things, but it's another tool in the tool belt, and it might be something to consider trying.
And another thing that we've done is, I've been in practice 30 years. So I have a lot of patients that have been with me for a long time in the dental office. But another thing we've done is we schedule post-surgery. So I had a patient and she needed both carpal tunnel syndrome surgery on both wrists. I mean, she couldn't sleep.
Oh my.
For sure she needed surgery. So she had surgery and we scheduled it so that she got her PRP near the surgical site while she was still numb. And her doctor told her it would be 6 months before she had full recovery and full strength. And she had full strength in 8 weeks.
Wow.
And she knows for sure that's it. I mean, she also does her face, but and she recovered so well. So that's just, so even if you need surgery, you could use it as the tool of healing.
Sure. As a supplement.
So that you heal faster.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Awesome.
They used to use it in orthopedics.
Oh, really? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Huh. But insurance doesn't pay for it.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that can definitely be prohibitive. Okay. So this has been great. I have a few questions I ask all my guests. And so I'm going to dig into those. Number one is I love learning about people's tattoos. So what I've found is often people who decide to put body art on on themselves forever, have a story associated with it. So I was wondering if you have any tattoos, if you would be willing to share what it is and the story or meaning behind it. And if you don't have one, if you had to get one, what would it be and where would it go?
Okay, so I personally don't seem to appreciate tattoos like some people do. I just don't know how you pick something forever. And I know it's because they got a story and it means something. And but this year, I think I'm going to get a tattoo. But not what you think.
Okay.
Okay, so my dog scratched my arm about 4 years ago. So PRP will take away a scar, but not an old scar.
Okay.
It has to be kind of a new scar.
Okay.
So I have a patient who does tattoos, but she does them as like to redo the nipple, and they're more medical.
Okay.
And so I was thinking, I think I'm going to get a tattoo in the scar so it's the same color as my skin.
Oh, okay.
But that doesn't really count as something meaningful.
No, that's all right.
I was thinking about it and I thought, there's really not one thing I would
that you'd want to do. That's just fine. That's okay. Well, it's funny. I don't have one. And it took me months and months and months to figure out where I would even put one. And I don't know what I would put. I think I do, but yeah, I just haven't done this. And it's funny. I was
Well,
at
the
this.
body doesn't look the same as it did when it was 20.
Yeah.
It doesn't
Well, I do know that even in college, I had the foresight to think about, like, if I were to do this, like when I was in college, the big place to do it was like kind of on your panty line, like, on your lower belly. And I just thought, I don't think that that's going to look very good. Like after I pop out a couple kids and after I age. And so I don't know that I'm glad I didn't ever put one there. Not to say that it couldn't look good, but, yeah,
that's a tough area.
yeah,
That doesn't stay.
it does change a lot. It changes a lot. Okay. All right. So we will not look for the skin color tattoo that you may or may not get, that we won't be able to notice, but you'll know. Okay. And then the other question I like to ask is, do you have a meaningful Bible verse that you would like to share?
I do. I went and looked one up today because I was thinking, what would I? And I pulled this from Corinthians. It says, everything should be done in love. I think intention is all of it.
Yeah.
If we all did everything in love, we would be so much closer to God.
Yeah.
So much further. And really, this is why I'm so in love with the plasma. It's because God made it. Man didn't make it.
Yeah.
So it really does work.
Amen. No, that's so true. That's so true. Our bodies were designed to do so much, and we absolutely, and I love that we have medicine to help, but we can really support our bodies, in so many different ways. And he gave us all these things to do that. So Dr. Cody, tell people how they can connect with you, how they can find you if they are in the Houston area, and where to get the book. Because if they're wanting to learn more about, I'm getting ready to hold it up. You know what this looks like, because you and I are on video, but this isn't on video. If they want to read a lot more of like the research and the all of that kind of stuff, like the medical, like the sciencey stuff, which I totally dig the sciencey stuff. You've got this book. So tell us about the book and then tell people where they can connect with you.
Right. I wrote a book about our journey, my nurse and I. It's called You Healing You, and it's on Amazon, and it's by Teresa Cody. It's kind of the stories of what we ran into in our journey. And I just thought people should know about this. This is just fantastic. So next to my dental office, which is CNC Dental, I opened CNC Wellness. So it's in Sugar Land, Texas, right outside of Houston. So it's the letters C and C wellness.com.
I'll put the show note or the link in the show notes. And as a side note, I think you might have one of the very best massage therapists there as well, Kelly Fruia. I love, and that, in fact, that's actually how I learned about it, because I hadn't seen her in a couple years, and maybe it had been, I don't know how long it had been, but I saw her. I was like, God, Kelly, your skin looks amazing. She was like, oh, I just got this vampire facial. So that is the other thing that was the first time I was exposed to it. Then when I started looking for all my bags, I was like, oh, maybe that would be it. But she's fantastic. You have a wonderful staff, and your nurse is amazing as well. Really, really good. Well, thank you so much for your time. This was so fun. And I would just encourage, you guys listening, if you want to learn more, go check out Dr. Cody's book, if nothing else, and then you can make the decision on if that might help you in the various areas that plasma can help you. Thanks so much for coming.
Thank you.
Like I mentioned in the beginning, this is not FDA approved, but I do think it's a resource if you're dealing with an injury or maybe just want a little glow back in your skin. If you're in the Houston area, you can reach out to Dr. Cody. And if you are not, and I know many of you are not, I will put a link in the show notes to find a provider near you. And of course, you can check out Dr. Cody's book, You Healing You. If you haven't yet subscribed to or followed the podcast, make sure you hit that plus button so you don't miss any of this summer's new season beginning June 14th. I'm going to be sharing 6 types of movement every woman needs to be incorporating in her workouts. Don't worry. They do not include burpees or running. And in fact, a lot of it is more on the gentle side. These are supportive and foundational things that will help keep you injury free and make you feel great so you can move in the way you love to move. Each episode, I like to offer you one simple thing to remember from the conversation when we cover a lot of different things. God designed our bodies perfectly, and He also gave us science and medicine to help heal our bodies and keep us healthy. And I just praise Him for that. I mean, what else do we say about that? Okay, that is all for today. Go out there and have a great day.